Welcome to a new edition of The Journey, and my guest today is fine arts photographer and arts technician Paul Temple. Paul, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure, Matt.
Now, a really fascinating journey. Now, we've only just met today, which is always great to meet new people and find out their journey. And the first question we like to kick off with always is the connection to the local area. So were you born and bred here, Paul, or did you grow up somewhere else?
Yeah, I was born in Melbourne and moved up here in 1985 to take a job out at Northeastern Dairy Company. So I'm almost a local now.
Yeah, almost, exactly. So whereabouts in Melbourne did you grow up?
It was a bit of a journey. Started in Carlton, which is why I'm a Carlton supporter.
Oh, dear.
We moved to Ashburton and then to the Moorabbin area.
Yeah.
Which is where I met Ian, who's my partner in the exhibition that's on show at the moment.
Yes, and we'll talk about the exhibition at the Library Museum coming up soon. But let's continue on the childhood for a little while first. So, born and bred in the city. Did you get on with city life? Did you enjoy the city?
I enjoyed getting out, camping and so on in the country. So I guess we had my wife had some family up here. Her sister and sister's husband moved up here, and we followed a few years later because we visited a lot and we liked the area. I liked snow skiing, and the snowfields weren't far away, so that was quite good. And the quiet life in the country,
Yeah. A lot of people. I mean, they don't know any different in the city, but as soon as they get a taste of regional living, like myself actually, I was brought up in the city, and as soon as I got here, it took a couple of years, I think, before I started to really appreciate it. And now I don't know if you're the same, but when you go back to Melbourne now, are you like me and you're just like, can't wait to get out of this place?
Definitely. Any big city, I can't wait to get out.
Yeah.
My wife and I have travelled a little bit recently, and, you usually land in a big city, and it's like, let's get out of here straight away and get to the, country, rural areas.
Yeah. But as someone who's taken a lot of photographs of concerts, I mean, you'd have to go to the city a lot, wouldn't you, to see the big stars?
Not always, no. Some, but we've had a lot of people in the local area that visit over the years. So, yeah, there's some that the really big ones are only in the city. Like the Rolling Stones, I mean.
That's true. What year did you say you moved up? 85?
85, yes.
So I'm thinking you would have missed AC/DC at the Albury Entertainment Centre?
Yes, I didn't see AC/DC. There's a lot of people that we missed. You can't go to everything, you have a limited budget.
Yeah, true.
And we were paying for our own tickets to go, so.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to, because you mentioned your partner in the exhibit, who's Ian Hood. How did you meet Ian, and talk me through your initial love of photography itself?
Yeah, well, I lived at Ashburton for, up until 1966. And my father died when I was young. My mother remarried, and we ended up moving to Hyatt. And I went to Hyatt High School in the middle of 1966. In the class, the teacher said, okay, Ian and a couple of other guys look after the new kid. So we were introduced at that time, and Ian and I both had similar tastes in music, and we liked photography and hit it off. So we've been friends ever since.
Yeah, wow, that's brilliant. And would you meet up with him and go to concerts, or would you always taken photos apart and then just combine the results?
No, we met at concerts. I went to concerts together, So normally it was like we went as fans. So you'd buy a ticket, it could be anywhere. You get as close as possible, but, you know. So it was interesting because, you know, we'd be sitting next to each other and you'd take a photo and you'd hear a click almost at the same time because you know when to take the photo, if you like. So we were sort of both almost doing it at the same time.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And has he stayed in Melbourne?
Yes. And in those early days when we're together using film, you had a limited, you know, you limit yourself to maybe 2 films for a concert. So you're budgeting the shots, you know, over the... Well, a lot of the concerts were quite short then. Like, I think the Rolling Stones, when I first saw them, was like about the length of an album.
Really?
Concert. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. Now they're blowout. I mean, Paul
Yeah,
McCartney's latest one, 3 hours and 15 minutes, somewhere around there.
Yes.
So have our expectations gone up quite a lot about what makes a good concert? So people were satisfied with the shorter concert back then?
Well, you were. And they'd do a matinee and then an evening show on the same day. So, you know, it's sort of spread out, I guess.
Yeah.
But like a ticket was, I don't know, maybe $11 or $7 or something to get in, you know. No, I think it was the cost of an album, actually, which was maybe, you know, $6 or $7.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
To see the Rolling Stones, that was pretty good.
It's amazing. So you partnered with Ian and you go to concerts and you take photos. But when you moved here in '85, was there a concern that you wouldn't be able to go to as many concerts and miss out compared to living in Melbourne? Was that ever a concern for you, or you didn't really worry?
It was one of the detrimental things, I guess, because you just couldn't go down the highway every time. But they still happened, you know, the bigger ones. I guess it took away smaller things that, you know, like Skyhooks and Dragon and I think it was Billy T that Ross Hannaford was in, were at a thing called Expo 78. So it was free, you just walk in, big circus-like tent, and you saw these people for nothing. If you're living this far away from the city, I guess it just doesn't happen as easily.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But we travel, you know, for concerts if there's something on. And
it hasn't always been rock photography that you've been in focusing on, and we'll get to the other aspects of your photography in a tick as well. But I just want to go back to another element of your working life and your life generally, and that is chemistry and the like. Talk me through what you studied at university and what led to your position in the dairy industry.
Yeah, I guess one of the things I was always interested in science fiction reading and science fact, and so science was a big interest, and I decided to do that at uni. So I got my degree in industrial chemistry. That was at RMIT, and Ian was doing illustrative photography at RMIT. And photography and science and chemistry always went together. It was just, you know, you took your films to the pharmacist in those days for developing and so on. So yeah, you know, you get into science, you'd like to do research, but I guess I wasn't clever enough for that, so I ended up in the food industry, working for Arnott's, and in the laboratory, and for the last year in new product development. And then I decided, that last year we were sort of looking to move up here, so it was a matter of finding a job that suited, and I got the quality manager's job at Northeastern Dairy Company out at Keilor. So yeah, that's how we got here.
And how long were you there for?
7 years. Then I had to to, well, it was one of the sliding door moments that you talk about where our daughter came down with a genetic illness, and it was a decision, do I keep working or do I give up? I had to give up to be a full-time carer. So that's where the chemistry finished, basically. My wife and I were full-time carers I actually left work on my 40th birthday, 1992, and we were carers until 2000 when our daughter passed away. So then we started looking for other jobs. I was looking at, chemistry, obviously. Couldn't get anything. I had one interview with Murray Goulburn, who took over Northeastern Dairy Company, and didn't get that job. And then my wife got a job first in pain management at Wodonga Hospital. She'd done a nursing degree, diploma in that time. So it was like I was ready to move anywhere at that stage, because I was trying for the local area, but you need to earn money. So when she got the full-time job, that sort of freed me up a little bit. I was doing casual work for Master Foods and for Albury City. I started in the museum, just as a casual on the weekends, opening up the museum for people, and then went to the gallery as well. And that got me into installation work, because I needed helpers to install artwork and objects. So that's a big part of the story, but I guess the next important part was that once my wife obtained a full-time job, there was a short couple of weeks that I could apply for doing a Bachelor of Arts at Charles Sturt Uni in photography. So that's history. I took that on, got into the course and did a BA. The other interesting thing was my younger daughter started at the same time doing a double degree in Bachelor of Arts in photography.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And graphic arts.
So you were in the same classes as?
Oh, we were.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, bad luck for her, but
you didn't cramp her style at all, did you?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I love that. That's brilliant. So it feels like this phase then of your career has been the one that's more passion based, because this is an area of your life that you have a genuine passion for.
I guess if I'd have got into research or something in chemistry, I would have been more passionate about that. Making sure the food that you eat is good and wholesome is great, but not the same, I guess, mental, capacity.
Yeah.
You like to really get into something, and so photography took that over at that time.
So let's talk about the different styles of photography that you've dabbled in.
Yeah, well, there's different genres that go right through, like I guess I started because I went to concerts. I liked concerts, so it was
and at
natural.
that stage, it was just about. Sorry to interject, but it was just about the pleasure of taking the photos of the artist.
Oh, sure,
right?
yeah.
It wasn't.
It was a memory sort of
thing.
thing. That's what photography is. A lot of the time, is jogging memory. The other one, of course, is because we went camping and so on, landscapes. I guess I did some wedding photography in Melbourne, but that didn't do much for me. It's very, very stressful, especially with film, because you don't know what you've got until a week later. And I guess I've always been a fairly shy sort of person, so doing portraits and things wasn't, I guess, comfortable for me. But I have got into that a bit more lately. Locally, we have a group online. It's called Creative Photo Shoots, and that's where you have models, makeup artists, photographers, all collaborate together. So it's about, we work for each other. It's all free. If the model suggests something, they ask for photographers or makeup artists to help, and you put your hand up or don't, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And as a photographer, you provide them with images, and the photographer wins by having images for their own portfolio as well. So, I've got more into that lately.
Yeah, yeah. And what's classified as fine art photography? I mean, what does that involve?
I guess it's more where you have some sort of concept in mind. Like with the models again, I did a photo shoot. Oh, let's call it a goth photo shoot, where I like a bit of mystery in photos, so that sort of worked. And I guess that's what fine art photography is, but it can be anything really, whatever your passion or genre is.
And I remember you were put together or a major part of an exhibition in Wodonga, I think once, that involved fine art photography. Could be wrong.
I'm trying to think of which one.
So you've done a number, haven't you, in the region?
I've always tried to have one of my own annually, if I can. And then I've collaborated with a couple of other photographers, and we've had a few exhibitions together. I like doing alternative processes, which are basically old types of photography, from daguerreotypes to tintypes to, cyanotypes. So we did a big cyanotype a few years ago. That was for, there's a World Cyanotype Day in September.
Right.
Cyanotypes are blueprints, basically. Architects and that used to use blueprints for their plans and whatever. So we did a full-size, 2 models sitting on a sensitized piece of material, and just creates an image.
Yeah.
So you'd call that fine art photography, I guess.
Is photography more creative now with the tools that you've got compared to the way that it was? Because obviously technology is just unbelievable.
Yeah,
now
it's no different. It's just easier.
Yeah. Did you prefer? Do you prefer the old ways of doing things with film cameras and the like, or do you like the digital world where you can take 1 million shots and pick the best?
I combine both, so it doesn't sort of worry me. Going back to concert photography, in the film days, we had to, the fastest film you could get was 400 ASA, so you had to push the film by chemical development. Colour was even more difficult, but Ian, doing the illustrative photography course, had access to a few tricks, so we could do colour transparencies as well.
Yeah.
The beauty of digital now is you can dial up, 60,000 ISO or something, and it can be nearly dark, and you'll get photos.
Yeah.
They're not always good. I won't say that, because lighting at concerts is variable and can be very terrible. And even with, if the lighting's bad, even digital can't do a good photo.
Yeah, but
it's much easier.
Yeah, I can understand it, but
especially for colour.
I mean, with someone who has a science and chemistry background, I mean, that would be something that you'd miss, surely, because you used to be able to muck around with all the chemicals.
I suppose that's why I like alternative processes, because you make up your own things.
Yeah, yeah.
Tintypes, you make the emulsion yourself, and pour it onto a piece of tin, and then it all has to be done. The photo has to be taken while everything is still damp, otherwise it doesn't work. So you put the emulsion in, you put it in a bath of silver, it's all that sort of stuff. I love that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there must be a whole generations now have just lost the art and ability to do that kind of thing.
Yes. I think at uni, I finished in 2004 in the BA, and I think that was the last year that they were doing, let's call it wet photography.
Wow.
The old style.
Yeah.
It pretty much went to digital after that.
Pin it up
and
on
I think
the
in my
clothesline.
class I was the only one that did traditional photography, and the others made digital photographs.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford a decent digital camera at that time, so...
Is there much money in photography outside of weddings?
I don't think so.
Do you?
That's why artists have other jobs, I guess. And it's been great working in, museums and galleries, because you get to handle artworks up close, and I guess you're looking at things, and you can take things from any artwork and sort of develop it into your own, or it becomes part of you. It's in your head, so in the background there it's saying something. So you when you make a photograph or something, that's all working back there.
Yeah. So you were talking about the art technician side of things, and that's been you were suggesting. So that's really the main kind of foundation of your career after 40, and you left the food industry. So does that involve putting together exhibitions essentially for people? Is that how it works?
No, there's more than just myself, but we're contractors now at Albury City. So if they need another pair of hands, they give you a call and say, can you work certain times? So it's not constant. It might be a couple of weeks every few months. But I guess it was a lot more earlier on when I first got my degree, and it sort of slowed down a little bit. Maybe I've slowed down a little bit getting older too, but it was enough for me with my wife working full time, and I was getting a fair bit of work. So it never became full time, but it earned enough money to buy equipment, keep everything moving, and more recently I've done some NDIS work in mentoring people in art and photography. So that's, there's lots of little different things where you can earn money.
Yeah.
You don't earn much money from having an exhibition and trying to sell things, though.
Yeah. Well, let's go to your exhibition, though. That was a neat little segue. 50 years of rocking pictures at the Library Museum, and this is a compilation of images that you've taken and Ian. So how many images are there in the exhibition? Yeah.
There's 49 plus 12 cyanotypes. So I use the cyanotypes we've got a section on blues music, and I put them in hoops, so to, I guess, be like records, round. They're 10-inch, and blue for blues, quite, worked out. There are a couple left out because we couldn't quite fit them all in. And there's a few objects and memorabilia from concerts and Duke magazine, which we had photos in. I should tell that story. back when I was still in Melbourne, we would go to a concert at Dallas Brooks Hall on a Sunday night. We'd go home, process the film, dry the film, print photos, and Ian would drop them at The Age, which produced Duke magazine, on a Monday morning, and you get $7 a print if they used them. So, yeah, I guess it was not about the money. I guess it was just like we'd look at the magazine and say, "Oh, we can do that."
Yeah.
So why not? Ian worked in the city, so it was easier for him to call in on the way to work. So, but yeah, it was a lot of work for not much.
Yeah,
but it was good enjoyment.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? It was clearly a passion project. And who, out of the concerts that you've been to, and I imagine you've been to almost too many to count, are there any that really stand out, both from an actual concert perspective, but also from the photography aspect as well?
Yeah, I did a rough count, and there's about 150 artists that I have photos of. The first concert that I went to stands out. That was the Rolling Stones at the Palais in Melbourne in 1966, and I was 13. So
do you have photos of that one?
No.
No.
I only had a box brownie camera at that stage. You couldn't do it. But we were both Rolling Stones fans, so they were number one. So Kooyong Tennis Courts in 73 is one of the oldest photos we have in the exhibition, which is 50 years ago this year. But some of the other ones that stand out are, I did some work for Rival Street Press in Albury, Wodonga. I was at a concert at Soden's, and Amy Warnock, who put the paper together, came up and said, "Oh, would you like to contribute?" I said, "Oh, yeah, sure." And she sent me to a few concerts as a photographer, and I saw people that I wouldn't have gone to see. So there's a few that stand out, and one of them is Mammal, who I'd never heard of.
Mammal?
Yes. And they were pretty wild, and that was scary, because if you check out the photo when you go to the exhibition, because it's really in your face. So a few things that I went to that I wouldn't have gone, I really liked the photography, That, again, was at Soden's, and it was, you can get right up to the stage, not sitting back in the bleachers like we were when we paid for concerts, so it was good.
Yeah. And what do you love about taking photographs at concerts?
Well, the first thing was just the memory and, going to concerts. And then it became, I guess I look for expressions on the faces. I love guitar players, the way they pull faces when they're doing a solo, it's just magic. And I've got a few series in there. The guitar player with the Black Sorrows, Claude, I've forgotten his last name at the moment. Claude, yeah. If you go to a Black Sorrows concert, you've got to watch his face.
Yeah.
Who was the other one? Andrea Marr band, there was a guy called Greg Dodd. He's got his own band now, but again, you just watch the face.
Yeah.
Lockie Dolly, I first saw, he was with when Billy Thorpe played at Lavington Panthers, and he nearly stole the show from Billy Thorpe because he was just wild. He's a keyboard player, and so we go to see him. He's got his own band, and he also sits in with many other artists as a keyboard player.
Now, obviously, you love music, and that's one reason why you go. But you also mentioned Carlton right at the start, so clearly you love sport as well. But you haven't gone down that avenue and taken a lot of sports photographs?
Not a lot. That was one of the other reasons I got interested in photography, because I was going to football all the time in Melbourne until I was also playing football. So when I couldn't go to games when we started playing on Saturdays or something, because all the games were Saturdays then. When it was real football.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, I did sport for a fair while.
Yeah.
Remember the jet boats up here? Took my daughter along, and she ended up winning a competition with one of her jet boat shots.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It was good.
Yeah, yeah. So your daughter has obviously followed in your footsteps somewhat, or you followed in her footsteps in a way as well. You started university at the same time, but no, she would have gotten it from you, obviously.
Yes, yeah.
So
because
what
both my daughters took photos.
Yeah,
they both won competitions in like the local shows and that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And
So-
she's continued on in the arts.
Not really. She has we have our first grandson, so
Oh, very
she's
nice.
sort of just working at Bunnings at the moment. They moved to Tasmania in the middle of the pandemic, or at the start of the pandemic.
Yeah,
Her partner was doing drilling on the Snowy 2 with the drilling company that came down from Toowoomba, where they were living. And he got home from his second trip there and was retrenched. And they had thought about going to Tassie, and they said, "Can you help us?" Because they needed to sell the house. So we helped a bit, got them down there in the middle of the pandemic in 2020. And that's a part of history too.
yeah, yeah. Well, and the arts is such a difficult industry to focus on in a career, isn't it? I mean, it's difficult.
It is. She didn't finish her graphic arts because the graphic arts section of her course was at Wagga, and it's really hard to get there. I offered to take her, but I think she wanted to get out and earn money. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No,
Graphic
I
arts
understand.
is better money earner, I think. Photography and other arts are sort of, if you strike the right spot, yes, you can earn money, but many don't.
Yeah, yeah. No, totally understandable.
Which is why I never really pursued photography earlier, because I thought, no, it's too much of a risk.
Yeah. So looking back to, when you were a kid, do you think that you would be happy that your life has gone in this direction? Has it turned out the way that you wanted when you started out?
I mean, it was obviously turned right on its head when our eldest daughter became ill. So no, you don't want that part, but you go with the flow.
Yeah.
That's a fork in the road, and you have to just go with it.
Well, that's
You've got no
it.
choice.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, there's a lot of, and you made mention of it earlier, a sliding doors moment, and no one can predict that kind of thing. So, I mean, that just must have been an awful time in your life. But was it rewarding as well? I mean, you're saying, you became a full-time career for the better part of a decade. I should say.
I guess we probably had more time with our daughter than people have with their daughters normally, because they go off and do their own thing. We're with her 24 hours a day, for that 12 years.
Yeah.
And she was amazing. When she was the first thing we noticed was Alana was just losing her balance a little bit. We had family things. We'd go to Melbourne, and we would have cricket in the summer, So she was playing cricket before Christmas, so we bought her a cricket bat and ball for Christmas. And not long after that, she was swinging at the ball and would fall over. So we knew something was wrong.
Yeah. How old was Alana at this stage?
She would have been 7, I suppose. Yeah. 1988.
Yeah.
into 1989. Yeah. So within 6 months, she couldn't walk unaided. So, I think doctors didn't think she would see out 12 months, I think.
Yeah.
They didn't say that, but,
Yeah.
you get the impression. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you learn
So
from
she was
her?
Well, she accepted it and just enjoyed life,
Yeah.
A lot of kids don't. They get involved in silly things and, sort of can waste their lives. And I say, well, look at Alana, she grasped every minute.
Yeah. She didn't take it for granted at all,
No.
obviously.
And look, she didn't. Most of the time she was very happy, even though, she had restrictions, the body tended to shut down, the legs and the arms, and, but she loved reading and she had one good arm that she could flick the pages. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was amazing that,
Yeah. And it would have obviously changed.
she loved meeting people,
Yeah.
especially if they were from another country.
Yeah.
She just loved other cultures, and at the end she was saving for a trip to Japan.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. And obviously you and your wife, and what's her name?
Andrea.
So it obviously would have changed you and Andrea so much in that period as well. Did you come out of it slightly different people than going into the period?
I think you have to. Andrea ended up doing nursing.
And she wouldn't have done that before.
I think she always wanted to be a nurse when she was a kid, but we had a family, and and because Alana had, whilst it came on when she was 7, she had some things early in life, which were signs of this, but we didn't know at the time. Nobody knew at the time. So Alana had just got to a peak, I guess, so that she was like other kids, riding a bike, running around, and then it just all went downhill. So, I got to admire Andrea for going into that field. I was told by a friend who worked in disability care that I could get a job any day. I thought, well, no, I can't do that because I've just done 12 years and, But now I'm doing some NDIS stuff and helping a couple of people that do have some disabilities, so in a positive way, I hope. So,
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing, and as we said, that's just something in life that you can never imagine would happen to you, and
no,
you have to adjust.
It's
your
your worst
life
nightmare,
completely.
really. But yeah, I think we've come out of it fairly strongly, and I admire my wife and my other daughter because obviously Melanie, as much as I try to share everything around, the disabled kid gets a lot of the attention, and Melanie's come out really well.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. All right. Well, we are nearing an end. It's been fantastic listening and talking to you about your journey, but we will wrap it up in our traditional way with our wrap-up questions. Are you ready for these, Paul?
Yep.
If you're able to invite 3 people to your dinner party, this is the classic question. Who would they be and why? Can be anyone in the world at any different time period as well.
Yep. I'm with the theme here, but I thought about it, and the 3 people would have to be my daughter Alana, obviously, Princess Diana, because Alana invited Princess Diana to her 16th birthday party, and she, or the Buckingham Palace refused. She was busy. So I would have loved Alana to have met the princess. Alana had a Make-A-Wish day, and she wanted to be a princess. So there's the connection there.
Yeah.
And my father, who died when I was 9. You just don't get to ask the questions that you'd like to ask, So
Yeah, that's a good
I
one.
thought about famous people and so on, but
We'll try and get an extra chair for Mick Jagger.
well, yeah, it might be a photographer rather than. Yeah, Mick would want to get paid, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Ansel Adams or something as a photographer would be really good.
Are you a sweet or savoury man, Paul?
Unfortunately, a sweet.
Oh, he's still a sweet tooth.
Yeah. I've tried to cut it back though.
What are your weapons of choice when it comes to the sweet stuff?
Andrew makes a great lemon meringue pie.
Classic.
And I make a great apple crumble. Or apple and
lovely.
rhubarb, because we've got rhubarb in the garden.
Yeah, lovely. And finally, do you have any recommendations for us? Something you're reading, watching, a book of photography perhaps that we can look at?
No, the thing I've been looking at it lately, or looking at and listening to, is A Letter to You by Bruce Springsteen. It's a 2020 album. I haven't been a great fan, but something made me buy that album. I'm not sure what it was. I must have heard something about it. And then I've seen the documentary on TV, and that really makes the album. Or I guess it explains what it's about. And it's about getting older. He's probably a couple of years older than me. And you start to think about your mortality. And in that album, he goes back over all of back to his original bandmates, and he was the last man standing because the second last one died a couple of years before that. And it's about, those that have passed away, making the most of what you've got and the friends that you have at the moment. It's worth watching if you can. It's on streaming TV, so you can't sort of buy it as a DVD or anything at the moment, but it's I guess it resonates with me because I'm at that stage,
Yeah. Well, wonderful talking to you, Paul. It's been an absolute pleasure discovering your journey and learning a bit about photography along the way as well. It's been terrific. Fine arts photographer, arts technician, Paul Temple, thank you so much for sharing your journey.
Thanks, Matt.